Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World, episode 116. I'm your host, John Jordan, and very pleased joining me today is Rahul Sood, who is the CEO of Irreverent Labs. How's it going, Rahul?
It's going well. Thanks for having me today.
No,
116 episodes. Wow. What you've been up to? You've been busy.
I've not been busy. That's the hilarious thing. It's taken me like over 4 years.
Wow.
So I go through spurts where I get sort of really active. I'm in a spurt at the moment, so I'm doing quite a lot at the moment. But then I go through other times where I get really lazy. So I guess I'm showing I have a certain amount of persistence at least to keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Good.
So we're mainly going to talk about MechaFightClub, which is your sort of big NFT project running on Solana, which you sort of are in the, I guess, early stages of. We'll get into all that. But first question, I guess, a bit more to find out about you. You've been around, not in a rude way, but you've been around for a long time. You've done a lot of things. And so it's good to get like just a snapshot of what you were doing, I guess, a bit before sort of crypto blockchain, how you got into that. You got into that fairly early and were building there, and take us through to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So, I've been in gaming and entertainment my entire career. I started my first gaming company when I was in high school, and it was a high-end PC gaming company that got acquired by Hewlett-Packard. I then was very deeply involved with another Canadian AR/VR company that I would argue they really created metaverse as a thing.
Wow.
They were called Vervana. And they created a headset sort of like Oculus meets with cameras on the outside. So it was a less isolating experience, and the cameras had zero latency. This company got acquired by Apple in 2017, and I was the first investor and really headed up their strategy. I also joined Microsoft for a period of time. I created Microsoft Ventures with my current business partner. That was in 2010, and I did that for about 4 years. And then right after that, I started Unicorn. I left Microsoft to start this esports and betting company back in 2014. We were building on blockchain. It was pretty early, kind of in Bitcoin, kind of a skeptic in 2013, and then really bullish in 2014. I changed my tune quickly, and I also was the first investor in Zed Run, which is this horse racing game on blockchain. So I've been in this play to earn space for a long period of time. Last year, Entain acquired Unicorn, and met with my partner from Microsoft Ventures, and we decided to start Irreverent Labs. We started it last September, so basically a year ago, was when this company started.
Cool, excellent. Covered a lot of stuff there. I'm not going to dig into it, but I remember Unicorn. I had an account there, and that was kind of really cool to mess around with. Zed Run as well. I mean, that's again sort of a project interesting. It could be its own podcast because it's still sort of launched very early. Had a sort of, I guess, a bit of a reset, and is doing quite well again now. I mean, stuff running on Ethereum mainnet. It's obviously had its problems. But let's focus on where we are now. So, MechaFightClub. What's the sort of elevator pitch? What's the one liner on that? Because it is it seems to be. I mean, you seem to be Irreverent Labs seems to be well named, at least, if that's what I gather from sort of what you're doing with MechaFightClub.
Yeah, Irreverent Labs is a company from the future, and we're building a fighting game from the future. MechaFightClub is a fighting game where every single character in the game is an individually unique, artificially intelligent NPC. So there's no like typical human interaction with a game controller fighting. Yep. It's the interaction is you interacting with your mechabot that you personally train and own. And learning from them and training them new moves and tricks, things like that. Yeah. Basically building an emotional bond between the players and the characters.
Mm-hmm. Why chickens?
Why chicken?
Without being too rude about it. But
listen, our game is basically, it crosses different cultural boundaries. So it crosses culture, it crosses humor. So it's sort of like, the way I describe it to people, it's like Tamagotchi meets Pokemon with the fighting style of Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter and the sense of humor of Family Guy and South Park, So it's this like new era of entertainment. We think that the future of entertainment is where culture crosses brands, it crosses, entertainment in a way and gaming in a way that has never really been done before, and underpinned with really deep technology. So why chickens? I don't know. It's funny.
No, but it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we need no deeper sort of analysis than this.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of absurd when you think about it. I mean, we started this game in last September. We raised $5 million right away, and then we raised another $40 million 3 months later. Building a futuristic cockfighting game, right? And the people who invested in us aren't stupid. Like, they know what they're doing. They invested in us because they really see what we're building. Like, we're building technology in this game that no one's done before. And and the type of tech that we're building is so unique and so interesting. It can span other titles. It can help underpin other futuristic gaming studios. So it's pretty neat.
And I guess it's always the sort of, I think the first level of learning about NFTs is the NFT itself. What it looks like and what its form is sort of irrelevant. I mean, I guess we have that, the sort of the meme of monkey pics now, and it's the fact what it is. I mean, some of them stick, a lot of them don't. But if you get it to stick, what it is, obviously, it has to. I guess it has to either attract at some high end level, or I always thought the Gary V NFTs were brilliant because they were clearly they were like the worst drawn NFTs ever because Gary V can't draw, but because Gary V had drawn them, that was that was what people coalesced around. So that's sort of I always think sort of whenever people says the NFTs aren't very good, then that you sort of understand they haven't learned it. And I had to learn that lesson because lots of NFTs I looked at and said don't like them, but it's like that's not the point.
No, I'm with you there. Like I think I'd like to be on the other side of that, where we're taking that idea of art and we're breathing life into it with AI. And so we're breathing life into art essentially, and we're actually creating really beautiful art. We have amazing artists on our team. Our lead concept artist is somebody that I've known for years, who is probably one of the best living artists that I know, and he's fantastic. We're investing a lot into our art and the tech that we're building.
So obviously AI very of the moment at the moment with all the sort of AI art and video stuff that's being produced, and there are a few NFTs doing sort of AI at various levels. Obviously, the tricky sort of thing with AI is it is slightly uncontained, which is sort of the feature of it. But that's also why I guess sort of the full set of AI sort of features haven't been used very much in games because you tend not to get a very good gaming experience. So in terms of sort of where you are with these, these AI sort of mecha cock things that you're going to be trading, how have you had to control the AI, or have you sort of constrained that? How have you made that sort of fun as an experience rather than it being sort of a bit of a black box that people feel have no control on?
So no, look, it's a good question. It sort of starts with the player getting to know their character in this experience we call the dojo. And in the dojo, people will see their bird and they'll discover their bird, and their bird will recognize them as they kind of open and start interacting with them. The more human interaction that the birds get, the happier they are and the better they fight. The training is super interesting because we literally have hundreds of moves that we're building in the can that are kind of mimic other moves from other types of fighting, whether it's movies or entertainment or actual fighting styles. We're training these birds with different types of fighting styles, and you get to train your bird. You get to sort of pick moves and kind of train it over time so that it prepares itself for the Coctagon, which is like the big, the big event. And so the birds fight in amateur fights in something called the cockpit. They have professional fights in the Coctagon, and every few months there's a big event called the Apocalypse where they all kind of get together in a Royal Rumble type event and they fight.
Okay. And if I've been reading it right, though, there is some. Not all AIs are created equal, so they will have sort of inherent traits, I suppose. So how does that sort of play into the sort of tactics?
So we're using AI and machine learning in a couple of different ways in the game. The number one thing is we're using something called it's something that's used in like autonomous vehicles. It's called agent simulation AI, which is really widely used in autonomous vehicles. It's a way for us to train the birds how to fight, to train moves, to get them to kind of learn basic moves and how to fight with their wings, with their magic moves that they have, and that sort of thing. The only thing about like agent simulation AI is it doesn't really breathe personality into the birds. It's just basically here's how you fight, and that's it. Now, how do we bring emotion and personality into the birds? We're actually imbuing every single bird in this game with their own DNA using a genome, chicken genome. It's called the Gallus genome. We're basically taking this data set and we're modifying it for MechaFightClub with traits that are specifically for the game, and we're imbuing each and every chicken with their own DNA. So you don't know whether you're going to end up with like a funny bird or like an angry bird or a sad bird, whatever it is. They sort of get their personality when they're born, and then you are helping to develop that over time. Usually the way it would work with AI is the more data that it is gathered, the more developed they get. So what's really neat about this, which is way different from any NFT project that you've seen, is we're building the first sort of living, breathing NFT that becomes increasingly unique over time.
Yeah.
So it's not like in these other projects that you kind of talked about earlier, like the apes and the cartoons or whatever. They have these things called traits, where they say, oh, this guy has a cigar in his mouth and this one's got a blue hat. Oh, if it has a blue hat, it's more rare because it has a gold tooth. Like those are very basic ways of looking at rarity, and I would look at those as sort of the biggest reason that 98% of the NFT projects from the last year or so will fail, because that's just that's only in the eye of the beholder what that rarity is. Not every project is going to end up being a Bored Ape Yacht Club or CryptoPunks. It's just not going to happen. So we're building a game where there's like 200 traits going into each bird. And as I said, they become increasingly unique over time, which makes it that much more interesting. Like we're using technology in a way that no one has yet in this space.
So
which makes it even harder for us actually, because even hiring those types of people is not easy. So
it's not traditional games people. So would it be sort of correct to say these are sort of dynamic NFTs then, and is that all being stored on chain? Because that sort of then becomes the sort of issue with a lot of this. The more data you're producing, how do you associate that with an NFT without becoming decentralized, or maybe you have to become centralized to actually get the system to work.
So sorry, what are you asking?
So as these things sort of evolve, you have these sort of dynamic NFTs. I guess I'm calling them. I don't know if that's
right.
Something you'd agree with. Is that data you can store on chain, or do you have to take a bit more sort of hybrid approach to how? It's
a hybrid approach, 100% hybrid approach. So the AI lives with us, but the user owns the NFT. They own the artwork. They have the rights to that art. But in order to plug it into the game, they have to connect it to our platform. So we're creating this kind of interesting wallet authentication. We're getting rid of email authentication. We use Magic Link right now. We're getting rid of all of that, and we're creating this whole new wallet authentication that authenticates the owner. It's a bit of a centralized, decentralized approach.
Yeah. So to date, in terms of, there may be other things, but in terms of sort of your NFTs, you've done the first. Can I get this right? 6,969. Is that that's what you've done as your first mint of a 41,000 total mint of these Genesis ones? Is that right?
So actually, no. What we did was we created. We discovered 6,969 alien eggs in Las Vegas in the year 2140. We sold about 2,100 or 2,200 of them. And the rest of the eggs are kept as eggs for now.
Okay.
Eventually, we'll release more of those eggs, but at the moment, we don't need to. We don't need to sell eggs to build this game, right? What we wanted to do was give a small part of our community access to the game, access to these eggs, so we could start to do beta testing and things like that with them.
Okay. But there is a fixed supply of these eggs.
There is. So in the world, the aliens left behind 41,000 of these eggs throughout the Earth. 6,969 of them just happened to be in Las Vegas in the year 2140. There's a lot of ways for this game for people to interact with their birds. So obviously there's the dojo, there's the cockpit, and then the coctagon. But we're also building a whole new breeding game. So where the birds breed, and then the next generation is different from the first generation. It's a game in itself. The breeding game is absolutely hilarious. You can be an owner in the game, so you could own a cock or a hen and sort of like breed birds. You could also own a hen house where the breeding happens. You could own a coctagon or a cockpit. You can sort of be an entrepreneur in the game and own a drug lab, for example, where drugs and performance enhancing drugs are allowed in the future in sport, right? Of course. So you can create performance enhancing drugs, you can create new bionics, like you can do all sorts of stuff in the drug lab, or you can just be a viewer, and a spectator gets to participate in the game as well. So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy an NFT to play the game. You can be a viewer in the game and actually collect stuff and do things, interact with the game in a way that you've never been able to do in a typical esport. Let's just say.
Yeah. And is esports something that you're sort of strongly thinking of? I mean, esports is difficult because lots of people sort of want to do it, but there is a sort of you can't make an esport; it has to sort of be adopted sort of model. I think it seems to be, but.
Yeah, you can't force an esport. So you can you can come on and say, oh yeah, esports, just because it's a cool thing to say. But look, I was in esports for 7 years with Unicorn, right? I know the space really well, and I know gaming very well. I know it takes a community to build an esport, and really it's up to the community if it happens. But we're creating a game that's very watchable and highly interactive. So it's like an interactive, watchable experience. Eventually, I'm sure it'll evolve into an esport of some sort. But yeah, we do feel that that's the direction that it'll end up going.
And I think sort of more widely there is, I think blockchain games are just more adapted to esports because they have, hopefully have this sort of idea of an economy with sort of tokens, and as you sort of described there, probably different layers for different types of people. So people who are playing, people who are owning, more high level or meta assets, and then spectators can do things as well. And I think that's sort of what esports as a sort of business has been missing for the last sort of 10 years, where basically there is lots of community, but there's no value connecting them all, and basically the top teams win all the money, and the money then goes out and they buy Porsches, and everyone else sort of sits there trying to get some money from merchant advertising. So I think a lot of those blockchain games actually have a better shot of becoming a sort of viable esport than maybe other games have in the past.
Yeah, for sure. No, I generally agree with that. I think a game has to be watchable. It has to be consumed by a lot of different people. And I think that the thing that esports is lacking is a really good viewing experience. To be honest with you, they're close, but they're not there yet, and this is why most games fail as an esport. Yeah.
Without getting sort of too much into, I mean, not techie stuff, but into sort of chain wars. You're on Solana. Was there any particular reason? I mean, why you thought that was the one to go for?
Yeah, there's probably a lot of reasons why. There's I mean, as far as like the technical reasons, I think you probably want to ask my partner David, but I can just give you some sort of general ideas. At the end of the day, we really had to think about the growth of the game and being able to support a number of transactions. And as transactions increase, do we really want to deal with gas wars? Do we want people spending more money on transaction fees than in the game itself? There's all these layer 2 solutions on Ethereum that we looked at. The problem there is it creates a level of complexity that's just not unnecessary. I feel like a lot of the games, or all the games in this space, are very complex just to get onboarded onto. It's really hard, right? It's even hard to buy an egg in MechaFightClub, right? Connecting a wallet, getting a Phantom wallet, getting your Solana, trading it for an egg. That's all really difficult stuff. But what I can say is Solana sort of takes away a layer of that complexity, and they are very focused on this kind of gaming and entertainment space, and they're making it easy with really incredible team and really great tools. The transaction costs are definitely lower than Ethereum. It's not as fragmented, and generally people like to develop in Rust. So like our team is When we started this company, David and I really set out to build a top tier development team. So we didn't go out and say we're looking for blockchain developers, because honestly, there's no such thing. You can be a coder and become a blockchain developer, or you could be a software engineer and learn Solana in less than 2 weeks and create really, really great software on top of Solana. And so we're hiring the best software engineers that we can find, and they learn Solana. They know Rust. They learn it very quickly. It's easy. Yeah.
And as someone who's sort of been an entrepreneur in the tech space and game space and an investor and stuff, how do you see, where are we in the sort of blockchain game sector at the moment? We sort of had 2021, this sort of everyone sort of having being forced to address sort of the rise of Axie Infinity, and I kind of feel a little bit with the trajectory of crypto in general and Axie sort of in particular, a lot of people have just sort of said, well, that was a bit of a fad, wasn't it, or not looked at it sort of very deeply. I mean, do you think we're in a sort of a long period of time now where sort of nothing happens, or how quickly can things change again?
Well, so I've been through 3.5 bear markets in the space.
What's half a bear market? I don't know.
Well, I guess you could say Silk Road was kind of a half a bear market, then Mount Gox, and then the ICO thing, and then this NFT thing happened. Yeah. I've seen it all basically, and I can just say that generally speaking, it's not a fad. I do believe that we owe it to the play to earn, the people that sort of pioneered this play to earn space, that they recognize, or they created kind of a space where we recognize that people can actually earn money while playing a game. That's cool. The only thing is that when they built it, they really didn't think deeply about economies. In that in order for an economy to survive, it needs real world production, and your game needs to attract real world productivity. Or if it doesn't, then you're just creating sort of these magic coins that if the economy, or sorry, if the player growth stagnates or the economy goes down, the whole thing can collapse, right? They kind of resemble mini Ponzi schemes, and that has to change. And so I think well-funded companies like Axie Infinity will solve it. Zedrun will definitely solve it. It's going to take time, but this is what happens in a new space like this. This is a hot, really, really new space. For us, we're not focused on the general market economy. We're focused on building a great game. If we build a great game, with this new form of entertainment that we're creating, and we do it well, we won't have to worry about market economies and stuff like that, because we're building a game that's built purely on human production. So the more players we have, the people that are actually consuming the game, watching it, playing it, owning part of it, that's just going to make us stronger over time. And by the way, the bull market will come back at some point. It'll happen again. Bitcoin will hit its all-time high again. It'll reach new levels. I really believe that, and I'm a huge believer in Bitcoin. So I do think Bitcoin will continue to lead the way in this economy.
Digging a little bit more into what you're saying about economies, I mean, I sort of broadly agree that if all you make is a sort of an extractive system, then it's impossible to balance it. But you do, I guess, you making a great game and having blockchain, is that really enough? Or you surely still have to think sort of quite carefully about what sort of assets you're producing or the players are producing, and at what scale, and how how quickly this stuff can be sort of removed from the system, and how you can sort of counterbalance that in a sort of coherent way. So is there anything a bit more you can say in detail about how you're thinking about that sort of stuff?
What I would say is I would highly recommend anyone interested in economies that we're building something called the 100-year economy. We're building a 100-year DAO. In fact, we have a podcast called the 100-Year Podcast that we just started today, episode 1. Oh, wow. So it's not as far as where you're at, but
but if you're going to go for 100 years, you're not pace everyone.
We built an economy that's designed to last over 100 years. It's designed to outlast us, and it's where as long as humans and automated entertainment created by machines can continue to last, this economy should last. We created a white paper on it. It's www.MechaFightClub.com/Baktoshi. BOKTOSHI. It was created in the future by a descendant of a gentleman by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. His name is Baktoshi Bakamoto. He's a chicken from the future. And he talks about this idea of proof of play, which is this new concept that's different from sort of proof of work. And it's kind of the future of entertainment. And really it has to do with if we're creating entertainment, if we're creating roughly 200 days of entertainment every 30 days, by say December this year, that entertainment needs to be consumable, but also it needs to attract brands and real world investment into the space. And if you get real world investment into the space, and you have real work happening in the game, you can build a sustainable economy over time. Yeah.
Given that you're irreverent labs and you're sort of doing all this sort of fun stuff, does that sort of clash slightly with this? Seems like rather serious 100 years sort of thinking about the future, and is it I mean, blockchain tends to do that. People tend to have these sort of deep thoughts, which I think is quite interesting as well. But should we be worrying about 100 years from now? Should we? Is that too grandiose?
No, I don't think so. I think I think the future of entertainment is actually work. Like I think people will work in these in these sort of metaverse mixed reality experiences. Yeah. I think of I really we don't throw the word metaverse around loosely, right? Like I know a lot of people do, and they're like, oh, it's a big thing because Facebook renamed themselves to Meta or whatever. But the reality is these mixed reality experiences are real. They are happening, and gaming gaming is only getting older and younger. Meaning gamers start out much earlier. They play on iPads at 2 years old or 1 year old even, and they're getting older. Like I'm 50 and I still play video games every day, right? And my point is that this market, this demographic is expanding in both directions. And as it expands, as we get older, we have to think about what does the future look like, right? What do people actually care about? They care about their health. Do they care less about their online privacy? They care more about their online security. They care about certain things, but that also merges into entertainment somehow. If you look at like sports, for example, I was in esports betting and sports betting, right? And so you think about the viewing experience for sports. These big sporting leagues are trying to find new ways to make the viewing experience that much more interactive for people that are technology savvy. It's the same thing in gaming. Gaming is really, I think that the next iteration is about ownership, not about earning. I don't think of play to earn as the right sort of mode. I think of it as like ownership within the game. If I could play League of Legends and have ownership in something that I do, that would change the game for me. That would change the dynamic completely. And so we're building ownership in the game like no one else has ever done before. And we're doing this with, using deep technology to create these individually unique characters that have personalities that over time people will get to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I definitely think ownership is sort of the key sort of feature really. And I think more generally, it's all with gamers. Once they sort of get a taste of what ownership is, compared to what they sort of somehow think it is, which is some sort of exploitative thing. It's kind of weird how that's sort of gone, the wrong way round. Ownership is actually giving it to the gamer. That's not exploitative. That's you own it rather than owning nothing at the moment. And it's sort of a very high level, basic concept. But I think once that penny drops,
Yeah, and as I said, I think there will be another bull market. It's going to come. And all the naysayers who are saying, I told you so, Bitcoin going to zero, are going to go quiet again. It's just weird. Like we have this thing where people want to see other people fail instead of, they want to, I don't understand human nature sometimes. But I can tell you that, I've been in this space long enough to know where I think things are going. And, I've had, luckily, sort of multiple proof points to show that I may have been too early in some time, in some things that I've gotten involved with, which is good and bad. But in this case, I think we're hitting it just at the right time. So yeah, cool.
And I guess to end up, let's get a bit more detail on Mecha Fight Club. So what's actually sort of going on there? You've got a certain amount of NFTs there. Are you looking to sort of move into some sort of playable? Are you going to do a new drop? What's public that we should be sort of looking out for?
Yeah, so we have a few NFTs that are out there already. They're on Magic Eden. People can go look them up if they want to. We're not doing any other NFT drops. Our next step is to launch the dojo, which is coming soon.
Okay. Cool.
The dojo is a training facility where you start to train your birds and learn more about them. People will be able to share those experiences online. They're hilarious. I mean, they're very funny, training a bird to do like a Bruce Lee move, from an old Bruce Lee movie, and then the sound effects that go along with it and stuff. It's just hilarious. And then people will start sharing those experiences online, and then shortly after that, the fights start with the cockpit. The cockpit are the amateur fights that start is sometime in December.
Okay, so it's pretty soon then. You're going to be rolling out proper features and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to buy a bird, right now the only way to do it is on Magic Eden. But there's a secondary market out there. I mean, there's people out there that want to trade NFTs and stuff like that. So yeah, you can go pick one up there.
Yeah. When I looked, I don't think they were too outrageous. About $200, I think, the floor at the moment, which is it's not nothing, but it's not a Bored Ape. So somewhere between the two, you find
exactly.
Lovely, cool. Well, thank you very much, Rahul, for telling us what's going on there and sort of painting a bit of the picture. Maybe good to come back next year when things are a bit more in the open and we can kind of check back in, see how things are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, and good luck with your podcast, John. On to the next 100.
Well, no, I've got competition for the next 100 years. I have to start training up my children, so clearly.
Yeah, right.
So thank you to Rahul for being on the podcast, and thanks to you for watching or listening, depending on how you're consuming the podcast. Please subscribe to the channel. Every episode, we're talking to the people who are building out this sort of crazy world of blockchain games, which I think is fascinating, and I think it's going to be a massive disruption of sort of the games and experiences and the communities that we've all sort of enjoyed over the last sort of 20 years. So please. Come along for the ride. Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.